Let me ask y'all a question. How many of y'all have a front door in your bedroom at home? Your bedroom leads to the porch. How many of you have a front door in your personal bedroom? Right, nobody. So here's the problem. When you start a relationship in sex, in lust, in physicality, it is literally a front door in the bedroom. The front door belongs at the front door. Intimacy is not something that grows on its own. You really have to build it. You build intimacy. You progress intimacy.
I was satisfied in the Lord. I think before anybody ever starts dating, you don't have to come to this place in your life where you're like, oh, that's it, I'm just gonna do ministry forever. But you should come to a place in your life where you are in love with God that you don't need anybody else. Does that make sense? You ought to be so in love with God that you have no need or no reliance on another person. You should not. If you need a relationship like a crutch, just know you're not ready. If you feel lonely when you're by yourself, and I mean, I'm not trying to be extreme or weird, but if you are not satisfied enough with God, and you don't know God well enough, then you're not truly in love enough with God, then you're probably not ready to date.
If you're gonna have love that lasts, I'm telling you, this is the most important ingredient, that you would learn to discover that your identity and your completion does not come from your partner, does not come from your job, does not come from your social status or your bank account, but your completion as a person comes from one. His name is Jesus Christ. So many people, they're like going through life and they can't wait to meet that special someone. They can't wait to start a relationship. They're so excited about getting married. They're so excited about dating people. And the problem is that when they kind of come together, we hear this stuff in society like, you know, I'm waiting for that person, my soulmate, to complete me. And you even hear things at weddings, you know, like, you complete me. And we watch that in movies, you complete me. And it sounds so beautiful and it sounds so romantic, and we cry and we clap like, I want a man like that and I want a girl. We do it all. But here's what happens. I want to be very, very clear. What happens to many people is many people that they go through life and they're hoping that someone's going to complete them. Yet because they've never first had an encounter with Jesus, and because they haven't first discovered their value in Jesus, because they first haven't been mended and made whole in Jesus, what happens is that they get ready for a relationship and they're going, I'm so excited, here we go, I'm starting this thing, this girl's beautiful, this guy's awesome. And as they get ready to pour into that person or let that person pour into them, the problem is that they've never ever dealt with the holes in their bucket. Let me just be honest with you. If you got holes in your bucket, it doesn't matter who you find. It doesn't matter how great he is. Doesn't matter how great she is. They will not be able to fix the holes in your bucket. I see this all the time. I see people, they fall in love and the person is great, but they thought that person was the thing that was gonna complete them. And so that person starts to love them, but it's just a matter of time before the person's going, yo, this isn't satisfying me and this isn't completing me. Well, there's no wonder it's not completing you. They can't complete you. They can give the best of themselves to you, but if you got holes in your bucket, you're gonna leak. And how many know it's hard to love when you leak, and it's hard to lead when you leak, and it's hard to be secure when you leak. And many of us today, there's holes in our bucket. I want you to watch this because this is so very important. What ends up happening is if you don't address the holes in your bucket, what you'll do is you will create false expectations on people. And so we start to have this expectation that somehow your job and your role is to fulfill me, to complete me. But really that person can try their best, but no matter what they do, they will not be strong enough, they will not be good enough, and quickly your false expectation will lead to the greatest disappointment. And many of us, we go from relationship to relationship to relationship, and it really had nothing to do with the other person that was the problem. The problem started with you. The problem was that you weren't willing to address the holes in your bucket, and it didn't matter what was poured into you. You were simply going to leak out in just a matter of time. Come on, how many of us today here at VOUS Church, we want to address the holes in our bucket and we want to be made complete in Jesus? Come on, somebody, give Jesus a big shout of praise if you know he can complete you.
You know, I like what this preacher said. He said, don't look for potential, look for patterns. When you're picking a spouse, or when you're now notice I'm saying picking a spouse. I'm not saying picking somebody to date. When you're picking a spouse, don't look at potential. Look at patterns. Who are they? Not who they might become. Because if I want to be a rocket scientist, I can keep wanting to be a rocket scientist. Good thing my wife didn't marry me because I want to be a rocket scientist. It ain't gonna happen. That ain't my skill set. It just ain't me. So I can keep wanting. But boy, if I tell my wife, listen, you're gonna marry the first astronaut to go to Mars and jump back, whatever. And she's like, I believe it. Yeah, let's get married. Boy, her life would be messed up if she married for that. Don't marry potential, marry patterns. If the person is messy, you're gonna live in a pigsty. If the person has bad hygiene, you're gonna live in a pigsty. If the person does not know how to manage money, you together will be broke. If the person is violent, if they're aggressive now, just know abuse will come later. Watch out. If they're lazy, if the person that you're interested in is lazy and that's their pattern, and they're on video games before you married them, guess what? They'll be on video games after you married them. If you marry a lazy person, they're gonna be a lazy person. Don't be foolish. Don't marry potential, marry patterns.
If you don't have a standard and you don't understand what marriage is about, because it's one thing to know what you like, it's another thing to know what you need. We have been lied to. We have been sold a bill of goods as it relates to love. And this is a problem because we've bought into the Greco-Roman myth of romantic love. And so when we say love, a lot of times, here's what we're talking about. We're talking about this Greco-Roman myth that has at the center Cupid. And Cupid, this little cherub, shoots you with his arrow. And when he shoots you with his arrow, there is this overwhelming passion that comes upon you. And you begin to say strange things like, this thing is bigger than both of us. You have to say it just like that too, or it just doesn't work, you know? Or another one, this is one of my favorite. We don't choose who we fall in love with. Help you. And this one here, I don't understand this one, but I love it. It just sounds so cool. The heart wants what it wants. I have no idea what that means. But this is what we believe about love. And this is part of our problem. That even in church, we believe this about love. That, you know, that there's some overwhelming force will strike you. And when this overwhelming force strikes you, there's nothing you can do about it. You have to be drawn along by this overwhelming force and do what it tells you to do. And we use phrases like, follow your heart. You know what the Bible says about the heart? It's wicked and not to be trusted. The Bible says, don't follow your heart. That's the Greco-Roman myth of romantic love.
We have this big emphasis on marriage, how to have a happy marriage, how to have a happy home. Most of it is built on selfishness. Most of it is built on the wrong perspective. For example, the typical marriage seminar. The typical marriage seminar They tell the husband this: you want to have a happy marriage? Listen to your wife. Want to have a happy marriage? Be kind to your wife, be sensitive to your wife, be gentle with your wife, bring her flowers, take her out for dinner. If you want to really have a happy marriage, meet her what? Her needs. We're back to that need mentality again. Meet her needs. She's got a lot of needs, and you need to meet her needs. Very important. And so here's this husband, and he's doing everything he can think of to try to meet her needs. Well, I've got to stay home because that's I just have to meet my needs right. Well, I need to get this for her and take this. I want to really meet her needs. And what he's telling her is this: you know what marriage is? Marriage is where you get all your needs met. Marriage is where I knock myself silly trying to meet all your needs all the time. That's what marriage is. That's what she's programmed to believe. Same thing on the flip-flop. They tell the wife, now if you want to really have a happy marriage, meet your husband's needs. Look pretty when he comes home. Don't have your hair done up in coils like explosion in a mattress factory. Be dressed. Get your makeup on. Look nice. This needs mentality, which is such a counterproductive focus, where everybody is concerned about having their needs met. You know the problem with that? If that woman is programmed to believe marriage is where all her needs are met, the truth of the matter is there isn't a man on earth who can meet them all. And so as soon as she finds that they're not getting met, she feels justified in the fact that she's noticed somebody else who might be able to do it better. And divorce is an option. And the same with the guy. If he thinks marriage is supposed to be where all his needs are met, it's obvious that she's not going to meet them all. She ain't even going to understand them all. Then he's going to be justified in the fact that his needs aren't being met. She is not what I need, you hear them say. And off he goes and justifies another relationship. And it works that way even with the children. You know, they say, well, make sure you're sensitive and listen to your children and give them some space and meet their needs. You can really alienate yourself from everybody in your house by programming them to believe that you are this incessant need meter. How do you keep a marriage together? By focusing on something completely outside those relationships. It's a given that you're married. Somebody said, you know, to me one time, well, I married the wrong woman. My response was, well, she's the right one now. And now that we've got that established, how are we going to make this thing work? But you've got to transcend that relationship. Some relationships are better than others. Some are more fulfilling than others on a human plane. But none of them will be all that God designed them to be unless the people are living outside themselves for a greater cause. And that is particularly true in the spiritual dimension. Divorce is no option for me. Why? Not because my wife meets all my needs all the time. I don't even tell her all my needs. There's anybody in the world who's going to always know all the needs of someone else. Our marriage doesn't work because I all the time meet all her needs. I don't think she even expects that. I don't expect that. But our marriage works, and divorce is no option for us because we have a cause beyond ourselves for which we live. What is that? We live to the glory of God. We live to the exaltation of Jesus Christ. Divorce is not an option. Why? Because we have a testimony before the community in which we live to show them the power of Christ in a home. Divorce is not an option because our home is to be a haven for Christian people to come and to see the work of the Spirit of God. Conflict isn't even an option. Selfishness isn't even an option because our home is exposed to so many people and we want Christ to be seen. So the agenda for us is not make sure I meet all your needs, but the agenda for us is make sure I walk in the Spirit. And I find that if I live to the glory of Christ walking in the Spirit, I have a wonderful marriage and a wonderful family life.